Welcome to Grizz's workshop. This great lummox is Grizz.
Not an expert or an exemplar of safety.
So this video is going to feature the sculpture of a Saint Martin family. They settle on the coast, as you'd expect with Saint Martin, generally in sandstone cliffs. This picture here is of a man-made Saint Martin home. There's usually lots of holes where the chicks are, and it's where they form their nest. And there's usually a hive of activity with birds flying around and also birds feeding their young. My usual way of making the sculpture is to find a nice picture online, as I have done here, and make a silhouette where I can, and try and just cut it to the correct size, and then cut it on the bandsaw, which try and do a bit of a finessing cut if I can, just to cut some corners so there's not too much to carve or shape away. The bird feeding the young, which is what I'm sculpting now, is a bit more tricky, as it's got its tail out and its wings apart so they can balance. So I have to come in with finer tools, starting with my carving knife and then onto my little rotary tool here. Once I've got that sorted, I do most of the shaping on my bobbin sander. Got the belt setting on here, and this gives it a real nice smooth finish. Occasionally I'll use the belt sander, so the power file, which helps to get into the tighter angles than what the bobbin sander does, as well as the feeding bird. I've got the chick as well. I've made two of these. I've made them longer than I need them to be, just so I can get a grip on them and get the chick's head formed. But the main piece will be the flying Saint Martin here. It's going to take a lot of sanding. This is solid wings and bird all in one, as opposed to using separate bits of wood. It means it takes a lot of sanding down to get rid of that material. Because if you don't make the wings thin enough, it's not going to look like it's going to fly. So this takes quite a long time to do. And in the middle of all this, my sander packed up, so I had to repair it. It turned out the carbon brushes had worn out, but once fixed, I was able to resume with all the sanding. Also, the wing snapped off at one point. There was a slight crack in there. I was able to glue it back together, but because it broke itself as opposed to being cut, I managed to glue it back together seamlessly. There was very little to do after it was glued together, and it's stronger than ever. Once all the pieces were finished, it was time to think about the stand for the piece. So here we've got an old board taken from an old oak sleeper, and that's supposed to represent the sandstone wall. And I was just positioning two chicks. I was thinking I only needed one, but then I wasn't sure, so I'll just keep playing with the layout here until I get something I like. And unless it's more, just the one chick I decided on. So I made a base for this, for the sandstone base, and that was just an old oak beam which I cut to size, and then I cut a slot in the middle to take the thickness of the beam. Nice and heavy, that base. Put them together and then the sand. I came back with this wire wheel here just to rough the edge up. I wanted to make it look a bit different in texture to the birds, as it's all oak. Didn't take much really, and then I glued everything in place. Next day I came back and added a stain and tung oil mix onto the back there, just so it stood out from the birds, which it did in the end. I just used some mineral wax with paste for the birds, and they stayed a lot paler. No added colour at all. Once it was all oiled and waxed, I came back and added my brand.
See you next time on Grizz's Workshop.